Okay, class, here's video number 2 on just some more notes, some things I'll expect you to do, concentrate on, think about for your upcoming projects. So, again, I'll be doing as many of these videos as I can as I remember stuff that you need to know and things like that. So, make sure you keep checking these videos and watching them for what I need you to do and concentrate on. So, all right, so here's some more notes here, real quick. Some things I want you to think about. Um, for this project, the most important thing is the literary elements which you're going to include, the dystopia, the theme, using illusion, using irony, using protagonist, antagonist, foreshadowing. All those type of things that we've gone over to varying degrees in the class. So you want to make sure that you're covering these points. So the main thing here is when you're doing your thing, doing your project, is the subject, the modern day topic of concern. What is the concern that you have about society today, and what is something that you can take from today and then put it into the future and make it a dystopia and show your concerns of this is what life will be like if we don't fix this or that, or if we continue down this road, this is how bad it's going to be. Ray Bradbury, when he wrote Fahrenheit 451, wrote it during the mid 50s, and the blacklisting was going on, the communist hunt in Congress was going on, all this not very democratic type of liberty, America loving type stuff was really going on. It was this very scary stuff, and that's what concerned Ray Bradbury, and then Margaret Atwood in The Handmaid's Tale. She wrote it during the mid 80s when there was a backlash against feminism, and she, was concerned of, things that were going on in her society, and that's the stuff she brought out in her book. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to find something in our modern day culture, technology or maybe human connections, whatever it is that you find in humanity that disturbs you a little bit. I think technology is probably the easiest thing because that's been a big focus of this class. And then you're going to take that and see what humanity is going to be like 50, 100, 200, 500 years in the future. What are we going to be like if your concern blossoms into this really bad thing? And stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you take a modern day topic or concern that you have, and then the theme, of course, is what are you going to say about your topic or concern? How is it, or will it impact humanity? And of course, since this is a dystopia, it's not going to impact humanity very well at all. Maybe you have a really dystopian government, or maybe it's a real dystopian type of society. There's a big difference between having a dystopian government and a society that's dystopic. One is a very harsh government, and one is just that humanity has gotten that bad because of itself, not because of some big bad evil dictator or something like that. So, another thing I want you to concentrate on as well is whether or not you're gonna, basically do the blueprint from the allegory of the cave. Remember the movie The Matrix, The Truman Show, Pleasantville. A lot of these movies and the machine stops all took it right from the allegory of the cave. They took the blueprint of that. They made the story and they made their own story, but they used the allegory of the cave. So, I would suggest using the allegory of the cave as your outline, and then you set your story into the future however you want, and protagonists as you want, antagonists as you want, and stuff like that. But use the allegory of the cave. That's why we spend enough time on it. Use that to your advantage there to help you write your story. Go back to it and then just make a modern day version of the allegory of the cave. Other important question I want to think about is how will you portray your protagonist at the start? Will your protagonist be like Offred? Remember, Offred she was aware, she knew exactly what was wrong and that this was a bad to society. She didn't need anybody to tell her that she was in a nightmare. She knew. Or is your character going to be like Montag, where he's kind of blind and ignorant in the first couple pages? He doesn't think anything's wrong until he meets Clarissa, and then it slowly dawns on him that this world isn't exactly the greatest place that I want to be in. So you want to be able to is your character going to be aware, or is your character going to be like Montag, where he's kind of blind in the beginning? Think of The Matrix, where Morpheus comes in and gets Neo out of the Matrix and brings him into the light, out of the cave and stuff like that. That's, Neo would have been a Montag where he, didn't realize how blind and ignorant he really was. So, and again, what makes your world a dystopia? You want to make sure that you are creating a dystopia. Again, I had a group last semester who did a really good job on creating their thing. Visually, it was stunning. The story was good, but it wasn't a dystopia. It was just a regular Hollywood movie. You got to make sure that your project is a dystopia. Your society or your government is a dystopia, because that's the main thing. That's what we've been studying about all semester. So, and also remember this part here, that your story is a dystopia. Either the government or the society itself will be dystopian, and usually in the dystopian stories, things don't end very well, or things end the way you don't expect. Doesn't mean you can't have a good ending. Fahrenheit 451 in some ways definitely has a good ending, but maybe the protagonist dies, maybe something else happens, but a lot of dystopian novels do not end very well. Brave New World in 1984, even though we didn't read those, neither one of those stories end up very well for the main protagonist. So you want to remember that you are writing a dystopia and that you're not writing a kid's Disney Hollywood type movie where everything gets wrapped up in the end. Things should not get wrapped up very neatly in the end. There should be open questions. There should be kind of a mystery a little bit. Handmaid's Tale kind of was a mystery at the end. If you didn't read the historical notes, you wouldn't have really known what happened to Offred. So, again, remember, you're writing a dystopia, your project a dystopia, so a lot of times things don't end very well. You very well can write a story where your protagonist, was blind and becomes aware, fights against the system, makes the good fight, loses, and makes no change whatsoever. That's a dystopia. That would be a perfect way of writing your project. But, again, you don't have to do that 100%. Be creative and stuff like that. I definitely want you to be creative. So think about all these things that I have brought up here, because I expect you to do all of this in your project. So one other thing, going back to the first video, again, these are the dialogue balloons, and then these ones right here, this black and white one with the little bubbles, that's an internal thought. That means that's something that the character is thinking in their head but not saying out loud. And so again, the noise, the sound effects, and the narration boxes. So this is a good example of all the different things that you can use: dialogue, internal thoughts, sound effects, and narration boxes. So you want to make sure that you include all of that as well. And then, if people were going to use bit strips or Pixton, this is an example of one of my former students' projects. And you want to make sure that when you do bit strips or Pixton, that that this little thing right here doesn't count for one whole page. Your project will be 9 to 12 pages, and that's full pages. So this would be like, maybe half of your page, and you'd still have to do at least another third to it, like that. Like this wouldn't be a one page. That would just be a cover page or something like that. This would be more of a full page right here, where you've got at least 3 or 4 boxes going on. But again, if you do bit strips or Pixton, let me know, because that is another possible idea as well. So, and again, make sure you go to the managed content, the graphic novel materials. The blank templates I have here, I suggest if you're going to draw them by hand that you print these out, because these are just blank templates. This is kind of what I expect you to use. You don't have to draw the boxes. You can just print these out and draw on them. Even if you use Comic Life or whatever, you can use them as a storyboard to just kind of map things out, how things might go. So these are, each of them are 10 pages of blank graphic novel pages, and my students who drew their graphic novels, they just drew these out, and when they were ready to do their final, they would draw it and pen it and stuff like that as well. So make sure that you use the blank templates 1 and 2 here to print out and draw your graphic novel and stuff like that. Also, if you're gonna hand draw your graphic novel, you want to make sure that when you get down to the final part, when you get down to the end, and you draw your graphic novel maybe by pencil, that you don't just leave it as pencil. You got to make sure that if you draw it by pencil, you go back in and darken the lines with a black felt tip pen or a darker thick black gray pen or something like that. Because if you just scan your images onto a computer when you did everything in pencil, it's going to show up real light and it's not going to show up very well at all. But I'll kind of remind people of that again later. So also under content is we had the story structure help sheet, plot structure organizer, again under week 13 materials. Make sure you take a look at those, because that's kind of how your story will be set up. You'll set up the background, you'll have the main conflict, the main struggle of the story, and then the resolution. So follow that, follow this outline here of how your story should be set up. So if your graphic novel is 12 pages long, 4 pages, 4 pages, 4 pages, or 2 pages, 6 pages, however many pages, I lost count already. So anyway, so make sure that these are all stuff here that I expect you to take a look at and use, even if I don't show you. How to create a graphic novel is a good one. How-to guide is another good one. Example images. You should take use of all of this. Just because I don't go over it doesn't mean I don't expect you to take a look at some of this other stuff to help you out with how you're going to do your graphic novel and stuff like that. So, all right, this is the end of notes 2.